pioneered exposing. They've sold these mortgages. They put the bad ones in credit default swaps in buckets. They've AAA rated them, had insurance companies, certify them. They know what they've done, and so they couldn't have deeds involved because there was no chain. They didn't want to have to pay for the title companies each time to transfer it and check it and make sure it was all under law. And so they just made it up so they could sell Europe, the Chinese, our private pension funds, the public pension funds, this toxic pus.
Right, exactly. And again, they wanted these things to fail because once a certain percentage of them had failed, they could say, all right, we're collecting on the credit default swaps. And we know from those, the Goldman Sachs hearings.
Yeah, we now see cases where 2-3 banks are trying to foreclose on the same house. Thousands of confirmed cases, even on CNN they're reporting. They're taking houses that have been paid for a decade where they never even had a loan with them. They just show up and take it. I mean, these banks are so criminal. They were just putting houses on record and selling it that they didn't even own. I mean, this is like end of the world, jumping off cliff craziness. What is going on with these bankers?
Absolute piracy. No, the point of it is the following. What's the public policy we need? The bankers, Wall Street has created chaos. They created chaos with the bubble in the first place. They created chaos when they all went bankrupt in September 2008, and the government had to save them. It was a terrible mistake. They should have been put into orderly bankruptcy, and then this stuff could have been sorted out under Chapter 11. But now they're creating a third or fourth round of chaos with this Wild West policy of foreclosures. And the answer is stop foreclosures, ban foreclosures, freeze them, moratorium, no foreclosures. And it's got to be by a federal law, uniform federal law. You throw an American family out on the street, you go to Leavenworth. No more foreclosures. It's obviously a situation which is so chaotic now that in addition to all the other reasons to stop foreclosures, you got to stop them in order to avoid what is just now absolute thievery.
Okay, Webster, I know you always like to give solutions, but people need to even understand the problem. So we've got a bunch of callers, Sean in China, many others. I want to go to them. We'll have you till about 5 after, then Dr. Paul Craig Roberts is on, and it's so great to have you with us. But I want to talk to you about not what we wish the solutions were and what would probably work, but what the elites are doing and the direction they're going in.
And but wait, Alex, it's not that bad, right? There's a whole bunch of officials, right? They happen to be Democrats, right? That's
no, listen, listen, Webster, I'm going to give you the floor for 10 minutes. Okay. So you run with it. My issue is I want your forecast into the future. I want to see what you think is going to happen, not what you wish would happen if they were good people or whatever happened, who the factions are, where you see it going. They're hyping false flag terror again, and I see them pulling that rabbit out of a hat. Let's get into just a general forecast of everything going on for another 10 minutes, and I'm going to go to these calls because they want to talk to you, Webster.
But look, the thing with that is you can't make a prediction as if you yourself didn't exist. In other words, oneself is always a factor in the future prognostication. Now,
I understand. What about stage terror? What about where do you see this mortgage thing?
Because I think it's really important because people can take action rather than just observing.
Okay, but then get into false flag terror.
Sure. Here's the idea. Right now, the desperate part of the political spectrum is you have a bunch of desperate Democrats who are looking for things to say to try to avoid the worst. And in doing so, sometimes good things emerge. You're in a situation now that's so bad, gold is where you find it. You've got to look around and see positive things can be coming from very bad people. And again, very evil people sometimes do positive things. So you've got a bunch of Democrats who are calling for some kind of a freeze on foreclosures. You've got Debbie Wasserman Schultz. You've got Harry Reid. You've got Congressman Van Hollen, the part of the House leadership. You've got that guy Coons, who's running against the witch in Delaware, right? You've got a bunch of others. The problem with them is that they say 1 month, 2 months. No, not 1 month or 2 months. 5 years. 5 years or the duration of the world economic and financial depression, whichever lasts longer. And that's something with teeth. We had the Fraser-Lemke Act, 1935. It basically stopped foreclosures on family farms. Let's have a new version of the Fraser-Lemke Act. And how this could come about right now, it could. You have this Elizabeth Warren sitting in the White House, right? And some people look at Elizabeth Warren and they say, well, does she have any power, right? She's now the czar for the Federal Consumer Protection Agency, right? Financial Consumer Protection Agency. Well, generally speaking, that's nothing good in there, but something could come out of it. Somewhere in all those regulations, there's got to be some way for Elizabeth Warren to come out on the White House lawn and say, okay, we're freezing foreclosures for 5 years, or open-ended at least. We're freezing foreclosures for the duration of the crisis. And I would call on Elizabeth Warren to do that. Don't wait for Obama. Don't ask Obama. We're getting these reports from the Ulsterman papers. I don't know if you've seen them, but the Ulsterman reports about Obama is that he's on the verge of a nervous breakdown. So forget him. Forget Axelrod. Axelrod was on television saying, no, we can't freeze foreclosures. The Washington Post is very worried about a freeze on foreclosures. The headline yesterday in the Washington Post was, no freeze on foreclosures, please, says the United States government. And instead, it's exactly what we need. In other words, at some point in this crisis, finance capital, financiers, zombie bankers, Wall Street, they've got to take a hit. They've got to lose sometime. And here's a chance to make them lose. Because most people would say, from the point of view of American fairness, those banks were bailed out by the taxpayer. They should say thank you by stopping these foreclosures. In other words, did we bail out the banks just so that they could come and steal our houses now? No. They should cool it. They should stop with the foreclosures. And I urge people, call your elected officials and say, we want a freeze on foreclosures. No more thievery. No more throwing American families out on the street under the cover of law. Interestingly enough, when this came up on Sunday in one of the Blab shows, Eric Cantor, the Republican whip, the guy who would become the majority leader in the House of Representatives now, as soon as somebody said something about freezing foreclosures, Cantor lined up to defend his owners in Wall Street. He said, oh, no, that would deprive lenders, in other words, the zombie bankers, that would deprive the lenders of the protections they need. So his heart beats for Wall Street. And then he said, no, we've got to have individual responsibility. Individual responsibility is you're on your own. You're going to be crushed by this huge zombie bank that's going to come and take your house. So I think that's a great area to mobilize, and then go on from there. So I should continue now, huh? Okay. Well, I guess what was our other topic I think we were talking about false flag possibilities. Well, these are always there.
It was stage terror, Tarpley.
Sure.
They're really hyping that right now. We got all these White House officials saying what he needs is a new Oklahoma City or 9/11, so people admire him and think he's strong. They think we're so dumb they're out in the open talking. Finish up on that for 5 minutes, and then...
I think the question of the crisis of the Obama regime is maybe the thing where we got new developments, right? Have you gone into these Ulsterman papers? It's essentially it's a White House insider who is now making a series of revelations. It's a blog called newsflavor.com. And Ulsterman is a former White House official under Obama who tells a story of, well, what can we say, Nixonian paranoia, severe depression, narcissism, megalomania, but that Obama seems to be on the verge of some kind of a mental breakdown. Again, what he says is you've got to compare this to the Ford Halloween massacre. 35 years ago, this coming Halloween, we had Gerald Ford firing a whole bunch of people in his administration. He kicked out Nelson Rockefeller. He kicked out Schlesinger. He kicked out Kissinger from the White House, at least, and so forth. And if you look at what's happened with Obama, there's been a tremendous exit of these officials, right? Blair, who was the intelligence director, is out. Orsag of management and budget. Romer from economics. Larry Summers was an economic czar. Rahm Emanuel is gone. David Axelrod is leaving. It's getting to be a very long list, and if you add that up, it essentially is a massive exodus, and really an unprecedented exodus of top officials from the Obama regime. It's been done over a couple of months, so that seems to mask the dimensions of it. But there it is. So the idea is that there were tremendous clashes between Michelle Obama and Rahm Emanuel. There's a war going on between the Obama White House and Pelosi. The Obama people want to get rid of Pelosi and scapegoat her for the losses after the election now in November. And the White House is filled with fear of Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton. And it takes the form of the possible invocation of the 25th Amendment. That is to say, the provision of the Constitution, if the president becomes incapacitated, then what happens? Well, if a majority of the cabinet vote that the president is incapacitated, then the vice president takes over. And then there's a mechanism. If the president says, no, I'm not incapacitated, it goes to the Congress. I think it takes a 2/3 vote to certify that the president is incapacitated if he claims that he's not. But you look at that cabinet, and you'd say, well, there are probably 2 votes already that Obama is incapacitated. That would probably be Hillary Clinton, and it might be Robert Gates at the Pentagon, and then you take it from there. And Joe Biden would also have a vote, and he might be a 3rd vote, and he might be part of this. So the idea would be you get Obama out, and then you have Biden move up, and at that point the vice presidency becomes available, and maybe Hillary Clinton decides to move up into that. These are the things that are actually going on behind the scenes in the Obama White House. So let's see. The idea was that Rahm Emanuel was forced out by a cabal of Valerie Jarrett, David Axelrod, and Michelle Obama, and so on and so forth. So behind the scenes, Robert Gibbs, the spokesman, is likely to be out. So you will have had pretty much a complete purge of the entire personnel there of the Obama White House. We're also told that the CIA has assigned a top Iran-Contra veteran, a top CIA official whose name came up in the Iran-Contra era 25 years ago now, has been assigned by the CIA to assemble all the dirt on Obama, basically, all the stuff about the Chicago corruption, all the stuff about his personal activities, sort of the Larry Sinclair file, I guess you'd say, and then the stuff also on the birth certificate, the qualification to be president, and so forth. So essentially, what you're seeing is the breakup of a government. Certainly, it's not just these Ulsterman papers that talk about it. You have this in the supermarket tabloid The Globe, talking about tremendous tensions between Obama and Michelle. You had the German newspaper Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung saying that the main financial angels of the Democratic Party are now telling Hillary Clinton that she should run for president immediately. And you've got all kinds of people speculating about Obama's mental condition and kind of psychoanalysis, right? Obama on the couch.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to care. He reportedly just watches ESPN all day.
Yeah, there you go. That's exactly it, that he's completely detached, he's bored, he's disinterested, and indeed he never read some of these monstrous pieces of legislation. Apparently never read the health bill after all. So all of this indicates that you might be looking more at Washington intrigue. In other words, various forms of a coup d'etat, cold coup, this kind of stuff going on as a result of this weakness. If Obama loses 1 or 2 houses of the Congress, you're going to see more momentum in this direction. And it seems to me that the thing that I think would be a positive outcome would be a challenger to him. In other words, an open challenge. I really don't care who it is at this point, because whoever the first one is will be followed by more.
Well, only Ron Paul will attack the globalist and the big